I've figured out what's going on. We're live any second now.
Excellent. Right. Well, I continue to be exceedingly excited about the huge range of wonderful poets that we have got coming up for you at some point, whenever the internet continues working. Yes, it's going to be a great evening we've got whenever it starts. And I guess I'll keep, so after the wonderful Marie Marshall, we've got Libra Ravindran. So yeah, he's very involved in social justice activism. He also runs an anti-oppression listening circle for Black people and people of colour, and has also performed at Extinction Rebellion. Then we'll have Deborah Watson. Deborah has been very instrumental in bringing this event together, in advertising it, in getting us on track, and she was a founding member of Poets of the Planet. Aaron Olk, founder of Hive Mind, and he's very involved in many other similar Extinction Rebellion aligned activities. Ian Mclaughlin, who is also very involved in Poets of the Planet. He's been a great help in many of the things that Poets of the Planet do, and was a founding member of that. Alwyn Marriage, so she's written 11 books. She's a poet, academic, philosopher, and phenomenal person in general, very impressive. Then we've got our first feature of the night, Neelam Saredia-Brayley, and this is going to be the sort of like halfway mark. So Neelam is just someone who, once you've seen her, you'll just be captivated and want her to go to everything that you do, which is why she is at this event, because I saw her at a previous event and thought, how can we get more Neelam in our lives? So anyway, that's then basically the first half of the evening. And so I think we're going to get to the start of this now and give you some of the actual poets in their own words before you've forgotten who they all are. So just as a brief overview, this is the first time that we have ever done this event. So there are probably a few technical hiccups. That's fine. We're going to be all about the poetry here today. We're here to celebrate the natural world and the horrible things we've done to it, and hopefully sharing some ideas for how we can be better about that in whatever words. And just being very aware of the intersection between justices, the various social justice causes that we have at the moment, how they intersect with access to nature, how they intersect with pollution harms, how they intersect with all of the different issues facing our natural world. So to kick us off in this quite monumental task, we've got Marie Marshall. So these are, in her own words, she's a person who tries to share how she has her particular difficulties and triumphs in living. She discusses normal things. Personally, I love her journal entries. I don't know whether she's going to do that sort of thing for us tonight. Please welcome Marie Marshall.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay in this fine hour. Yeah, I'm just gonna go with it. Lay down on flora timid, the chrysalis state of spring, where respiration's a webbed sigh of winter's relief. With willpower, you raise your legs high in the air, the wary heads of infantile petal, cocooned pistil. Keep still in it all, the thrill of it all, wonders of beginning, to practice anew. Midsummer. It's bright tonight. Feels right to think how our bodies root and drink in, lives out its days, becomes adapted in some ways. Nourishing now, different from the past, make it last, make it last. A facade is the case where the truth is hidden under its surface. Though treacherous to explore within, to finally admire the skin you are in. I would lose myself in the forest, remind myself how I once was at the beginning, frightened of the alien, awaken the snotty splutter out of my nostrils, tear duct quenched, deem them worthy of having. I am worthy of the cold, irregular spinal tapping, tapering, split-ended sensation, sharp, metaphorically, but very real, and it must not be forgotten. Autumn. Arrange and align my biology. I stand before you barefoot in your biomass. Crisp, cut, cold, is the deity delighting a dream once retold. Empowered, ground devoured, suckled sweet, the ethereal teat, the strength she seeks, there she stands the tallest. Brown skin, her love within, puckered, plucked by the sun, she reaches out to become one. She is my favorite, the singular, the isolate, an inspiration to me, my beloved tree. Thank you.
Yeah, phenomenal work there. Such great personality and warmth, yeah, and centering of personhood. Yeah, lovely stuff. Excellent. So after that, we've got Libra Ravindran, who's a poet from North London, actively involved in climate activism and social justice campaigning. So he set up these anti-oppression circles, so regular listening circles for Black people and people of colour. And he's also performed at several Extinction Rebellion events. So we're going to hear more from him now. Please welcome Libra Ravindran.
Hi everyone, thank you for that introduction. And today I'm going to read one poem. It's called Stay Rooted to the Ground. The poem was inspired by a workshop that I went to. It's called Roots of Regenerative Culture, about how nature can be entwined with our human beings in terms of the seasons and synchronizing ourselves with the rhythms and patterns of nature. So the poem's called Stay Rooted to the Ground. The lunar cycle waxes and wanes. How the gibbous moon yellows in a parade. Menstrual cycles synchronize to time. Celestial seasons sway from action to reflection. Integrating dreams into flowering reality. A past lover serves archetype of shame. Blunders coax the spur of new growth. The tips green with promise. I wake up aware of my breathing body, sitting in front of the sun, orange coloring my eyes. Regenerative roots dig into the permeable soil. Harvest reap toil of graft. When we embody nature's cycle within our consciousness, decay gives way to juniper opulence. A licked thumbprint impresses a kingfisher, reaching the height of activity in a paramour of panic. Self-care evidently manifests in mind, when edges are blurred and we seem to run out of time. A racist crisis precipitates degeneration. Open a turnstile earmarked to be heaven. Jumping on a trampoline with a sack of potatoes. Bindweed blisters a dog snout. Entrenched conformity sits by a broken log. Head in hands, wondering where is the next stop. Flights are grounded. Cycle lanes take over the streets. A pause for celebration, toasted gratitude is key. Learning that stagnation haunts a Primrose Hill, flick through the Magna Carta, decide to change society's ills. Prosperity comes from acting on recollection, topped with a sprig of dill. Thank you very much.
Woo! Oh, thank you so much, Libra. That's, yeah, really rich description of death, which I suppose is, yeah, such a relevant topic at the moment to all of us in this sometimes unfortunate ways, but it is true that this is how we go about life. Right, up next, we've got Deborah Watson. Deborah Watson is a performance poet who does very intimate, multi-sensory things. She's been tremendously useful for setting up this event. She's really put a lot of heart and soul into organizing everything. And so, she's here to share us some of her own work. So she's performed a huge number of places throughout Europe. She's a very professional creator of intimate spaces. So let's see what intimate space she's got for us today.
The blackened stone's a graveyard now. The tower floor seeps. My ashen thoughts in disarray damp with worry weeps. The meanness of crows unpicks my chest, searching for a beat of a heart already dead. Every day an apocalypse. Australia burns, Venice floods, the Arctic hotter than Alabama, glaciers melt, California incinerates, Bangladesh submerges. In Senegal, the rising sea eats at coastal houses. We aren't the only animals that know it's always too hot, too cold, too wet, too burnt, too little, too much, too late. Our fossil-fueled romance weighs down dreams, wrecked with deliberation, raised by default toxicities, chokeholder, consensual footnote. Pandemic calls pause. Nature cloisters sinners. This suffocating virus, her odorless revenge, freed from commerce, she at least, and at last, can breathe, while we, the heartless, guilty, hunker, hoping for reprieve. Every day, an apocalypse. Ah, my lovely parasite, my psycho-teen storm. Shyly you hide from our lying eyes. Dead men laugh when you open your mouth. Remains lay thick at your feet. You silenced our cries with silent battle cries, turned bodies to bullets. Now the wild beasts enter empty city streets, poke their antlers and beaks, signaling. Every day, an apocalypse. And even I, with my short attention span, can see that it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a good day for rain.
Woo!
You have to check we're socially distancing, but it's okay. There's a computer. Yes, it's all fine. Yes, thank you for that lovely work, Deborah, and yeah, and all the effort you've put into establishing this event. Next, we've got Aaron Olk. Aaron runs a creative collective called Hive Mind, which looks to champion primarily minority voices. He is also a budding academic and so works in a coffee shop as well as doing all this. So yeah, he's very busy, but he's made time for us here. So please give a big welcome to Aaron Olk.
Hello, hello. Well, you've got to pay the bills some way, unfortunately. So yeah, coffee pays, coffee pays. Yes, anyway, I'm going to jump straight into it. My first piece requires just a touch of context, and so there was a poet back in Syria, poet and activist in Syria back in, I think he died in 2015. Anyway, he was a pacifist who would hand out roses to soldiers, which is like the most passive thing you could possibly do, right? And yeah, his own government murdered, tortured, and mutilated him, and then left him dead by the roadside. Yeah, not good. So that's the first one, and it's called Orchids. Gaeth Matar is dead. Roses are not armor, but I'm wondering if orchids could be. Put simply, I am no pacifist. I'm not sure I remember what passive is. No passion for listless killing either. I have listened to that Milo song a dozen times over, and when he says he could have become a poet or a farmer, I say simply, chin up, soldier. Roses are not armor, but orchids could be. Thank you. That is my first one, first of all. So yeah, quite a intense topic. I only found out about it back in 2017. It's been a point of contention for me because it just seems so crazy that a government would do that to their own person, especially one that was objectively causing no harm. But you know, here we are, 2020. It's all going well. The next one is, well, next and last one is called Flight Memo. The secret of flight is hidden, bled through a ground till the marsh holds its soreness. a start-up or muscle twitch, spurs in the side of morning made from torn pieces of old newspaper, drawn from underground spring, the lust that dreamt of more and turned into birds. What an array those beaks burrowing, what an upstart, what a cacophony these birds made when they decide earth was no longer their kin. What a grand dance their falling is. I have long keeled up and stopped thinking of these creatures, their arrogance and song that goes ahead lashing dawn to the door it pulls on. It's best not to wake, to turn the mirrors to the wall and worry not for introspection. It is sweat and blood and lust that became birds, not because it wanted to, but because it wasn't sure what else to do. Thank you. That's it. Yeah, that's all from me.
Nice.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Robin, Deborah, and everyone that set this up. Appreciate it.
Lovely work. Yeah, thanks for that. Yes, oddly touching depiction of horrible government cruelty. Yeah, well, I guess you have to make beauty out of something, and I guess, you know, sometimes people try and make beauty out of flowers and get killed for their trouble, but we continue nonetheless. Anyway, let's see. We're now moving on to Ian Mclaughlin, who is another stalwart member of Poets for the Planet. He's been helping to organize events and motivate this event itself. He's an expert in many things. He's a classicist by training, and he's now recently featured in XR Tower Hamlet's Rebel Jam, and we're going to hear from him now. All right, please welcome Ian Mclaughlin.
Hey guys, I'm going to do two poems. The first one I'm going to do is called Hey Superman. Superman is trying to save the Earth from the megalomaniac boss who set fire to the Amazon. He is trying to save the Earth. In his brawny grip, a water tower. Ash flakes from his blue-black hair and smudges his blue costume. Superman must snare the hunters. He circuits the mother of one rhino cub, and elsewhere they're hacking off the tusks of an elephant. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? He must bury the planes, the gridlocked, gas-pumping cars. A fresh batch of coal-fired stations smokes. What can you do, son of Jarrell? Weakened by the kryptonite of our indifference, he swoops to snatch a burger from the barbecue, a bottle pitched in the sea. The sea rises. Superman kneeling to free a gannet from a gag. Hey, Superman, are we still worth the sacrifice? And the next one I'm going to do, the last time I'm going to do, is one that I wrote for Willesden Junction Poets in Residence, and it's called At Willesden Junction. Point me to Old Oak Common. I'm a stranger here, down from Sheep House Wood. I've walked 3 days, brought only my pipe. For a handful of acorns, I'll play for you. I know many sweet songs. Before they were axed, the ash tree and sallow would nod in time to my songs. Bats and hair-streaked butterflies dance. Old Oak Common's a daydream, the shady groves and hedges. That way's the scrap metal yard, its flock of white sacks fed with spent engines. Sit with me on the steps of this railed corridor. For a song, I'll give you blackberries heaped in the leaves of a metro, and cones from the green-needled pine tree. It stands alone in an alley by the station and sings to the wind.
Yes, what a wonderful, rich sound the whole construction has. Great. It's very soothing, isn't it? Well, I don't know whether we're going to continue with soothing words or whether we're going to be given a bit of fire now, but what we have next is Alwyn Marriage. Alwyn has already written 11 books, so she clearly knows what she's writing about. She's widely published in various magazines, anthologies, and online, many prizes. She's lectured in philosophy, and she currently is managing editor of Overstep Books and a research fellow at the University of Surrey. So please give a very warm welcome to Alwyn Marriage.
Thank you very much. And so far this evening, I've thoroughly enjoyed every single one of the readings. I'm going to read 3 short poems. The first one is called Not Giving Up. I don't often write angry poems, but I have a suspicion that we should sometimes get a bit more angry about what's happening to our planet. So, Not Giving Up. Trapped like a fox in the dying woods, or a rabbit caught in the beam of an alien sun. Shudder with me at the threat of Earth's annihilation through catastrophe. Scream in fury to the stars that will not miss a planet we thought we loved, but didn't treasure. Howl with joy at our fertile coupling, but fear for the future of our swelling seed. Snarl, scratch, and hiss, never cease to fight till the last hope has gone and Earth dies. But there are signs of hope, strange ones all over the place. And one sign of hope, I think, is Greta Thunberg. So this is dedicated to her. I think she needs all the help and support that we can offer. It's called Beginning Small, and of course, it's metaphor. An acorn fell on Swedish soil, shyly accepted the discomfort of sun and rain, the risk of ruin. Daring to be open, twisting to break free of tangled roots, the acorn turned to see more saplings sprouting all over the forest floor. No one can predict the future, but there's always hope that acorns will grow into mighty oaks that might save us all. And finally, there were some beautiful surprises in lockdown, I'm sure you'll agree, including the sounds that we had grown used to never hearing. How wonderful it would be if we could retain the good as we overcome the bad. So this is based on some of the sounds that I enjoyed in lockdown. It's called, appropriately, Audible. Birdsong, starting on C sharp, exploring all emotions from warning, morning joy, alarm, and even melancholy before ending on a trill. A snoozy buzz, burrowing into a flower's bell, leaving only a fuzzy rear end visible. A swish as swallows soar high overhead, carving a pattern of surprising sound through blue sky. Trees murmuring suspicious secrets through their leaves as they relish the slightest breeze. At the threat that this could all be taken back, replaced by drone of aircraft, roar of traffic, clatter of machinery, jangle of cash and shouts of avarice, how could we not grieve? Thank you.
That real spectrum of emotions you're making us go through there, but that's why we come to this, isn't it? There's so many possible emotional responses, and I guess, you know, at some point you've got to go through all of them, and then you come out the other side. Next, we are going to have our first feature of the evening. So this is sort of like, I won't say the halfway point, but we're not going to have a formal break. We're going to continue powering on because it's tiring to have to sort of like come sort of sit through a lot of Zoom. So I'm going to keep her intro short because there's a lot of wonderful things I could say about Neelam Saredia-Brayley. I'm just going to say a few things. So she's an award-winning poet. She's been captivating audiences for 8 years, and she's been described as effortlessly warm and honest. And it's really true. Like, her warmth does just shine through when she's talking to you. She's worked with huge numbers of different multidisciplinary things. She's won slam. She's appeared in more different festivals and stages than I could possibly mention this time. And yes, probably the most important things you need to know is that she's got a book coming out next year. And so follow her on all the social media things. And she has developed a new show, Queer Brown Skin. Right, I'm gonna just introduce you to Neelam and let her take it away. There we go. Please welcome Neelam Seredia-Brayley.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited. Bit nervous, but very, very excited. And thank you so much for having me. It's really important to be able to write about the environment and issues that are kind of going on and things that we've got in our minds and kind of finding solutions together. So this first poem is called Old Ocean Gods, and it's about sharks. In any given year, you are 10 times more likely to get bitten by a New Yorker than get bitten by a shark. That's not to say that New Yorkers are more vicious because of their congested streets and packed, sticky subways, so the only way to claim territory is a routine biting, but it shows how rare shark bites are. You are 100 times more likely to get struck by lightning than get bitten by a shark. You are even more likely to die while taking a selfie than get bitten by a shark, and what a dynamic final photo that would be. Conservationist William McKeever says, a shark biting a human is like a human accidentally biting down on a birthday candle while eating a piece of cake, and we've all been there, right? Especially when the icing and the wax are both white. Sharks are gods of electricity and second chances. They make mistakes sometimes, imagining you as a seal, a big fish, or if you're on a surfboard, a turtle. It's not their fault. I can admit, when I first watched Jaws, I couldn't sleep, convinced that even the dolphins on my duvet were hiding something sinister, so I threw the covers off and slept shivering that night. But it was the music that bred fear, that low, that terrified me. Watching Jaws during the day was another experience altogether, the chipper adventure music of men going fishing for power, and I was not afraid. I felt sorry for Jaws. I found out that humans kill 100 million sharks every year by accident, on purpose, or for sport. I learned that even though shark skin feels like sandpaper, like a cat tongue, sharks can be gentle too. They try to keep their distance. But the nature of humans is to conquer, to build hype to sweeten the capture. I read that someone once cut a shark's heart from its chest, held it up in their hands for a roaring crowd to watch it still beating, the shark drowning in the hot, dry air behind him. They deserve our respect. They are pharaohs of the sea. Swift submarines of beauty and old design, apex predators with sensationalized intentions, and they are incredible. With electromagnetic organs that sense electromagnetic fields in the ocean. Like trees, they have rings to show how old they are. If you can count them, you are probably too close. So count them from a distance. Add imaginary rings to the dinosaur age magnet body you can't quite see, because the further away we stay from them, the longer they stay alive in any given year. You are 10 times more likely to get bitten by a New Yorker than get bitten by a shark. That's not to say that New Yorkers are more vicious. It means that shark bites are so rare. They can look scary, but that's just their resting faces, trying to live in their own diminishing habitats. Remember that. Be kind. Don't bite first. Thank you, that's that one. This one is called The Healing, and it's about giving yourself a moment to take a breath and to just, thinking about air pollution and things, how when you're by the sea, things feel a lot fresher and it feels like you can breathe again. You've been here before, in difficult places, looking for the light between cupboard cracks, waiting for them to open, waiting for paths to illuminate. Remember, there are sometimes street lamps along the ocean, the slow glow one by one, When the natural light begins to fade, there are always people to help out, people to guide you home. Under the blue and orange sunset, keep remembering there is light in the dark too. The bulbs of lightness caught in your hands instinctively, despite everything you always keep them, switch them on, one by one. Find home in your body. It has always been there. You carry it with you. A sunrise that grows louder, an anthem of soft moments that make you smile. Notice your connection to this earth. We are soil grown and wonderful. Notice your beautiful cathedral lungs breathing as they have done for you all your life. Feel the ocean of your breath. You have it in you. Sovereign of forests, mountain tops, and kindness, wearing a coat of constellations, you shine. With more than just reflected light, it originates from you. You never lost it. It just needed this second right here for you to turn the lights back on. To breathe lungfuls of sea air, let the salt purify, electric baptism begin again. It needed this moment to unclench the heaviness you sometimes keep hidden under laughter lines. You are allowed to take a breath and start again, as many times as possible. Even in a single day, you are holy, beautiful, joyous, resilient, exactly as you are. Remember that sunflowers turn towards you. They follow your light. Remember to follow it too. Thank you.
Yeah.
So good.
This one is called Stretch Marks. It's about reclaiming your body. And yeah, it's a little bit different. These stretch marks should be painted gold. Tiger stripes to show how far I've come, how I've evaded hunters, men that like to capture the bodies of girls, contributing to their extinction of their innocence, taking skin and hanging it over their shoulders or up on a mantle, the head with the O expression of death, the exact moment the light went out, and I've been trying to reclaim, to own someone else's trespass and use it to make you burn brighter. Burnt orange marks have turned into medallions of valor. I grow my own skin out. It is never enough. But I'm trying not to set myself alight in self-destruction, but instead in defense, in attack. And you will never do this to me again. And so I carry these marks, grow them into armor, and turn the hunt to you instead.
Hey.
And getting more angry now, getting all fired up. And this is the newest poem I've written, and it's an eco poem. And it's taken me a while to write it. I'm just, as well, like in preparing for the set, I had to do a lot of research. But when you research, you kind of get overwhelmed with all of the stuff that's happening, and it's hard to make it into something poetic. And so I wanted to just use this poem as a bit of a journey towards something better, but recognizing that I don't have all the answers yet. And this is my last one. So thank you again so much for having me. XR recognizes that it is natural to grieve for the state of our environment. 1. The first stage of grief is denial. Denial is our friend, chuckling when we brush away truth as we get sunburnt in September, watching fires grow and struggling to breathe. Scientists are blamed for fear-mongering, so we refuse emergency exits, paint pastels over the red flags, but when we walk away with red hands that we can't hide behind our backs forever, deep down we know the truth. 2. Anger. I am furious. I'm furious that 2020's series of apocalyptic events are treated like surprises when politicians knew about it all along and did nothing, when they continue to do nothing until it is much too late, stage jumping at the bloodshed they legislated, calling destruction unprecedented, blaming immigration, those that lay before them, shaking heads at tragedy whilst placing blood diamonds in their back pockets. Scientists have been telling the truth for 30 years. In this age of extinction, it is always the poorest who suffer first. The ones with darker skin and fewer coins, but we will all suffer eventually. And when the earth is roasted, rich politicians and billionaire villains will still find a way to buy a gold-plated staircase into space, warming their feet on the apocalypse barbecue, wearing asteroid belts, and eating pangolin sandwiches of keratin scales because they love the feeling of biting someone else's nails but not their own, getting ready to do it all again, to colonize a planet further away this time. The trees have held back for as long as they can, but now they are burning or being cleared away unnecessarily. There is already enough land to feed us, but it is quicker, cheaper, and easier to let ecosystems die than to cultivate, adapt, and sustain. 3, bargaining. It's hard not to question why we should even try. Since 1988, 100 companies have been responsible for 71% of the world's emissions, but we try and do our bit, reaching up and clearing pebbles from the tidal wave that's already above our heads. It's hard not to feel like we're just waiting for the water to drop. And it's probably 80% plastic anyway. Carrier bags shimmering, looking like the fish that we helped to destroy, maybe we're the fish now too. Or more like lobsters, trapped in a pot that's just about to boil. If only we had protested more forcefully. If only we had taken scientists seriously. If only we had listened. We have conversations with open windows saying, look, we know we're gonna die, but if we're good, can we have a bit more time? We hope someone's listening. 4, depression. Depression is easy to drown in. It's easy to feel like the soil we are standing on has already been sold or deteriorating. As we try to step gingerly, our footprints are clumsy, carbon-choked and covering the earth. It's like we're watching black sand through an hourglass, except there's no bulb below. So when it's done, we can't flip it over and start again. We can't add more years. It's more like a funnel directly into a dumpster fire, and we have our hands out trying to shovel it back in, trying not to burn. 5, acceptance. I'm not all the way there yet, but I know every breath is sacred. Dr. Kate Marvel says, we need courage, not hope. We need courage to keep going and make changes. Changes we won't see making a difference until after we're gone. That's what courage is. No immediate answers, but doing lots of things that are little, big, or scary, and putting work in for later. I'm a horrible procrastinator. It took me over a month to write this poem. I keep my will close to my chest. It has a list of all the times I was brave. XR says we are the ones we've been waiting for. So we need to keep going. Before we are gone completely, there is work still to do.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
We're going to need a few moments to digest all of that. So just before we go on to the next poets, can we just like internalize this insight we've had into like the paradox of hope, how it's sometimes helpful, sometimes not. We've been exploring several ideas throughout this, and I just want to reflect back on a couple of things we've been seeing recently in terms of the feedback that we've been getting online, because obviously in this new structure, poets don't get the same level of feedback that they used to. Don't get people coming up to saying, oh, I loved your poem about thing. I just want to say that, like, yes, there have been comments coming through saying, say, for instance, Deborah's work was described as gorgeous. Someone particularly drew out the line from wearing a coat of constellations. And Mags Vibio has said, oh my goodness, I could listen to Neelam all moonlight, Neelam the goddess. So I think that sums up a lot of the feelings we're having right now. Yeah, and just, yeah, hopefully we'll all be inspired to do more, to be better, to earn our hope in the future. Right, deep breath, going to have some more poems. Right, next up, we've got Pauline Holmes. Pauline is the current Kent Slam champion. This is really quite a high accolade. I know the previous Slam champions from Kent have been amazing. And I believe Kent is one of those places where you're allowed to slam again if you've won. You don't, you don't just sort of hope for all the good people to have won it before and then you sneak in afterwards. You've got to keep fighting for it. So yeah, I'm very excited to know what Pauline Holmes is going to have to say. All right, please everyone welcome Pauline.
Hello, welcome to my living room. I'm a huge fan of Neelam, and that was just so wonderful to sit and listen to. I'm so, every time I hear you, I just love it. To you. Anyway, my piece for this evening. Imagine you live in a world of clear skies and clean oceans, where living things are valued and people revere the bugs and slugs that clean the forest floor. Imagine you could pour all the goodwill in the world into bottles, hand it out to improve mental health instead of drugs. Your children would read in their history books about days when the oceans were like minestrone soup, relieved their future was saved in the nick of time. They'd say, tell us about the kids who took to the streets, shook the politicians and won. Imagine if you could say the conundrum of plastic waste got sorted on your watch. Today's children are worried. Mesmerized by flashing screens, they see celebrities frowning. California on fire, while Yorkshire is drowning. Pandering politicians, the seen-it-all senators, the democratic decision makers who weren't elected democratically, just had the gift of the gab and the cash for the ads on TV. But children shouldn't be out campaigning. They should be glued to Fortnite or in the sun playing. Pond dipping, rope skipping, hip hopping, show stopping, clapping hands to pop bands. Not taken to the streets with placards and banners worrying about the future. That's our job. Now we can sit back, be passive, let Whitehall do the thinking, make policies on beer mats while they're down the pub drinking. Or we can be a right nuisance and get out a pair of these, keep writing to the papers and poking MPs. Because if Luxembourg can make public transport free to help clean the air, then so can we. We are not a helpless minority. We are the majority, mindful of our morals. We recycle, upcycle, switch off lights, get uptight when living things are harmed. We're the consumer. We hold the power. We can choose not to buy water in a plastic bottle or the 4x4 with a great big throttle, the latest phone, the deep fat fryer, the precious gem, the tumble dryer. No one looks good in a fast fashion shirt. And that Friday night dress, it costs the earth. Think of it. A world of clear skies and clean oceans. It's not too late to change. But ask yourself this, is it worth the hassle? Are you willing to pay more for less? To do without, shout for change, campaign for a greener world? Could you? Would you? Yeah, of course you will. How do I know that? Easy. It's because you're still listening. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good night.
Thank you for speaking truth to power and also reminding us that we have some power and would also like to be here to purvey some more truth to people. So next up, we're going to hear from Rose Ruse. Rose has had a pamphlet, Tantric Goddesses, out from 2017, and also a book of paintings and poems, Wild Land. She's had a grant from the London Borough of Culture Grant 2020 to form the Willesden Junction Station Poets, and she's creating a book, Bewildering, of poems and artworks. So please give it up for Rose Ruse.
Thank you very much. Great to join all you poets for the planet. And tonight, my two poems are about community action. And it's about fighting back with plants. And the first one is called Street Garden. And basically it's about murder of trees in my street. It's a microcosm of what goes on. So Street Garden. Someone killed the old ash, took a knife and hacked the bark, a precise circle of death. Next, a slender flowering pear. Within a year, it too was attacked. The culprit never found. What about the Chinese birch? I say prayers underneath its whispering leaves. I planted yellow pansies, a parade of perennials, verbena, lavender, euphorbia. This road is also my home. As statues are felled, I clear up KFC boxes. That's the first one. And the second one is one that I've written as a Willesden Junction poet. And it's about the reframing of the station, which is quite a scary place if any of you have ever been there. There's a long wire walkway. So it's called Graffiti for Neglected Flora. When rebel botanists look beyond the rat boxes, special brew cans, face masks, cigarette butts, black umbrellas tossed into the brambles, crisp packets, cardboard, where Nicola and Graham take turns to sit beyond the wire. There are women who never visit this station. Others sprint along it in the dark, lungs blazing, hearts icy, door key weaponized in one hand. We write your names: Groundsel, Herb Robert, Shepherd's Purse, in white chalk.
Lovely bit of nature knowledge we're getting here, yes. And also, yeah, reminding us of the many statues that must fall and the many KFC things that must be picked up off streets these days. Anyway, keeping going, we've got the wonderful Alexander Brand next. He's a published poet and spoken word performer from Kent. He's about to undertake a PGCE in English, but he's been published several times already in Dissonance Magazine and Planet Writers. Please give a very warm welcome to Alexander Brand.
Hello everyone, some brilliant performances so far, and hello to everyone that's watching on YouTube. So I'm going to be doing two poems, and the first poem is called Seaside. I feel the echoes of chatter heard from a distance. As the rain pelts on our bodies, it doesn't matter. The moment is replenishing. We're reminded of those days where sandcastles are fortresses, as spades are sprinkled with sand and wet feet annoy the indoors of our shoes. I now witness a place of peace, where the parasol tilts above our sunlit bodies, where I'm reminded of those seaside fields undulating in silence, even when we are gone. Thank you. So this second poem, well, the first poem I should explain. The first poem was about how we enjoy nature, but this second poem is how us as humans destroy it. So a bit of a contrast there. So this is called Twirling Stems. At a young age, our hearts are always open to explore nature and its surroundings. Within an arm's reach, a youthful mind will instantly want to touch it. Pulling leaves matters when innocence is broken. Picking flower buds and twirling stems in fingertips is an art for a 7-year-old who is shown a garden of enterprise. You can't blame us for spoiling its growth. It was too beautiful to be left alone. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, David. Thank you, Robin. And thank you, Deborah.
Woo! Thank you. Thank you.
Highlighting the terrible paradox of us really wanting to enjoy nature, but also not wanting to taint its wildness. difficult things to think about there. But anyway, something for us to rest with. We're still hearing dribbles of the applause going on from afar here. So there's been some praise for Rose's poem there with the West Side Story between plants. Finger snapping going on there. Excellent stuff. And yeah, I'm sure keep your comments coming in. We will read them at some point, honestly. Next up, we've got Elizabeth Uta. Elizabeth is an award-winning poet. She won 2 different competitions in 2018 Poets for Slough. She's taught poetry workshops with Farrago, read her work at the Queen's Park Literary Festival, and her poetry has been published in Bollocks to Brexit Poetry Anthology, Reach, and Sarasvati magazines. Excellent. Looking forward. Please give a warm welcome to Elizabeth.
Thank you. A little while ago, a whale made its way to a Norwegian harbour, and the world was shocked to discover it had 30 plastic bags inside it. This poem this evening is inspired by this event. Goose-beaked whale washed up in a Norwegian harbour. From the cultural suds, washed up on a public beach, in an arbour by the shores of forgotten imaginings. A discomforting migration. The whales do not remember themselves anymore. Their songs have dissolved in a bubble of obscurity. Weep wailing the last notes, dazzled and dazed out of skins, tossed forever on plastic waves, on a mythical ocean of no things. They are the floating dead from a world consuming its tail, lost in tracks that disappear in the washer machine of the deep. They are out of depth, their words adrift, wisdom astray, out of date, fish chipped away in news, where blood drips from pens dropped in the universal cry of sea melt. By night, almost no light, all is lost. Sea used to be home surf, when all, not now, unknowing. Here it is, clean, dirty, dry inside, yet sparkle deadly new outside, from the water of the wide wash tub, with the tide churning, turning of innards. Forget non-somnolent night sweeps, as every day, out of the Jonah dust, motes arise to surprise an ancient belly, blown in with the wind. Unnatural acts that become blue snouts of life, who, unrevised, spout fatal debris. From an iPod of whales schooled on the headphone tones of ocean singing, the blinking eye of mother, aunt, grandmother, all blind, late seeking the world core, but hadron colliding on hard water spin, shark-killing brain spill, lobotomized in plastic bags that sag, snag, and catch in a frenzy of filter feeding. Guts twisting away from the shrill cries of the krill, and the squid-deep burst of anemone baits the breath of goodness, opens wide this ragshop leviathan of the salt, unnourishing deep. And there, unraveled in a macabre harbour of death, choking amidst hand-picked additives, dropped by the sans-souci of the surface, ensorcelled by the song of polythylene man, who blubbers over waxed waters. Oh, oh, what have we done? Lightweight, checkout bags, commonly found drifting in the supermarket highway, to take away this Cuvier's beaked whale. From the family Ziphiidae, 22 species, first discovered 19th century, the only member of the genus Ziphius cavirosteris. At the time, the most famous cetacean in the world, its net worth naught, caught in the roar, the upside-down underbelly, the demographics of the sullied sea world, life fraught with endless difficulties, the sum total of landlubber thoughtlessness. Swan song, non-biodegradable waste product, man-made in landlocked factories, hand-packed, off the shelf, out to sea, with expiration dates stamped inside out, then wasting within this squalous sea pig, which must turn and turn forever and a day on the spit of our collective forgetfulness. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yes, such cutting elegance. We're getting some feedback from YouTube. Elizabeth, a gorgeous storytelling voice about such a horrible event. Yeah, it's difficult to believe that you can make it sound so beautiful, but somehow you've managed. Excellent, well done. Yeah, next we've got Matthias Monkey-Etika. So he is a performance poet. He was the Cambridge Hammer and Tongue Slam champion until very recently. He is also a doctor with deep knowledge of quantum particles. So if you would like any kind of weird nanotech stuff, he's a person you can look up with poems about that, poems about the environment, poems about mental health, poems about all sorts of social issues. Please give very warm welcome to Matthias Monkey-Etika.
Thank you very much, Robin. We live in a time of constant fire and smoke. This is called Marlboro country. Growing up in the 80s, the Marlboro cowboy was the king of cool. All my friends inhaling the message at school, blowing plumes of freedom and individuality, but shelter-sized futures getting harder to see. Nowadays, the whole planet smokes, burning people for profit. Southern hemisphere chokes from a corset that squeezes the last drop of resources, while politicians play power, sending liberation forces. BP drilling deep into oceans that are already bleeding, so horizons turn rainbow from oil spillage seeping. Meanwhile, corals bleach white, burned by acidification, eroding last lines of defense for marine nature and nations. The Amazon rolled into one giant spliff that is lit from both ends as we race off the cliff. We don't mind methane blooms and island nations bog, as long as the carriage is lined with natural wood. Sacrifice nature, demonize sacred, theorize later, specialize, cater for only the ones first in line for life rafts. The others didn't work hard enough, get the shaft. The pattern's predictable. Blame refugees lost at sea. Only words changed from colonialism to white supremacy. We develop first world justification Tourette's and get type 2 overconsumption fat until everything's set for our last cigarette, and yet we're still subscribing to the same system that outgrew our world, or the signs we claim we missed them, that idolizes the lone maverick king of cool, when we know he breathed poison only to soothe the lonely that we now each feel in societies, atomized, contactless, full of unmet needs, until we all reach stage 4, rage metastasized, branding activists, terrorists as fascists re-rise, or closing our eyes to the cognitive dissonance, sway across tilting decks, the hottest year on record dance. To be on the right side of, there's not much history left, and I fear we'll stand by idly, drawing a last rattling breath. Thank you very much.
Woo-hoo. Thank you.
Brilliant.
We can see how all these people have won all the many slams and accolades that they've won, can't we? Yeah, great stuff. Next, we're going to hear from Sam Crosby. One of the benefits of being on the internet is that we can include people from across the country. So he's coming to us from Cornwall now. We're in Devon, by the way, so it's not actually that far away for us, but for most of you, I expect that's quite far away. Yet he lives for deep, authentic connection. He's performed with Sprout Spoken, New Keys spoken word group, and his most recent poem highlights the benefit of beavers to our ecosystems, which was published for the Wildlife Trust in collaboration with 26 writers. A Sight of a Beaver. Excellent. Let's hear now from Sam.
Thank you very much for having me. My piece will answer Alwyn's acorn. Ugly walks. He says no, picks an acorn and loops it high into the valley. It is beautiful, I insist, but the seed, bumping, rolling, lands, is planted. Once a year, about this time, through triumph and tragedy, we walk. In 2010, we left our hometown, but we met again and the ice came through like a spectre and we skidded over lakes. In 2017, backpacks full of adult scars, we ambled and clambered on Glastonbury tour. In 2019, our firstborns arrived. Mine, a profound, incurable brain disorder, cracked me open. We still walked, cold sticks clicking under our boots, blaming each other for directions. And every year, that same reminder at the top of the hill. Beautiful, I'll say, looking out across the patchwork fields, sucking in lungfuls, like I'm in an attic smelling my childhood, and he makes a face like he's seen a spider over my shoulder and says, it's not. And I deflate, and I feel that acorn seed taking root, sprouting, because he's right about the melt gold corn, sheep wool white, the braying and the mooing in the farm at night. It's all flawed, manicured. The hedgerows are sutures over soil, blood, bruises, agriculture, homogeneous, repetitive, eco-diversity, full, strained for humanity, collapsing, for easy pickings, for cheap meat. Hunting was hard, but at least it afforded the prey the dignity of the chase instead of plucking it off a shelf, minced for 99p. My heart is sad. I am ashamed. And that acorn is not an idea anymore. It's a hulking oak. How can we call our countryside beautiful when we know the damage it hides, holding up a mirror to blind ourselves? We are animals among animals, but we alone construct the cage and call it comfort. And as we walk, I'm glad this is the company I keep, because we remind each other of how things are whenever the acorns fall. Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Whoa.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for that. So much for funneling your life into this story about everything that's wrong with society. Just to remind everyone, though, although these poets have put so much time and effort into these poems, they have other poems as well. Go on social media, find them all. All of these wonderful people we've gathered here today, they have more than this poem, honestly. We're getting some more feedback here. So a lot of love for Matthias here. Nanotech social issues, the whole package. Marlborough Cowboy, so timely with Australia and United States West Coast in red. Stage 4 indeed. Susie Campbell, heartbreaking and yet also uplifting to hear these powerful voices. Yeah, I think we can all echo those thoughts. So next up, we've got Tim Kylie here. Tim's exceedingly busy at the moment, but yeah, he works in London. When he's not being a lawyer, standing up for the dispossessed, his work he writes poetry, which has appeared in Magma, South Bank Poetry, Lunar Poetry, and Under the Radar. His debut pamphlet will be coming out next year. Hopefully, we'll still be here for it. He's the chair of the Tower Hamlets Green Party and will be running as a candidate for the London Assembly in City and East. Right, well, let's see what one of his many talents is. Here, please give it up for Tim Kylie.
Thank you very much, Robin, for that effusive introduction. That's wonderful. I'm going to start with a poem that I was fortunate enough to have anthologized last year as part of the 2019 Ginkgo Prize for EcoPoetry. This is a poem called It Is the Trees. It is the trees who cry out for the day's wait to be cast off with only their holy riot of song, imagining their own birds brilliant with their own suns. It is the trees who leap in the sudden night, whose day boughs, heavy with closed moths' wings, light up and fill the street lamps with escape and glory, do not believe in anything less. It is the trees who weep openly, who make the tarmac run with grief, who summon mud and ruin from under their own roots in incandescent vengeance for breathing things. And finally, it is the trees, only the trees, who hurl their unforgiving trunks whole and indisputable through our disbelieving, wind-smashed eyes. Thank you. Yes, we've heard an awful lot of fairly stark reminders about where we are tonight. Neelam talked earlier about how easy it is to feel overwhelmed. It is easy to feel overwhelmed. But through events like this and through the work that I do, I also draw a lot of strength. Because, to quote another fantastic poet whose work inspires me, Joelle Taylor, trees hold hands under the earth. And from work like this, I get a great reminder of the continuity of this struggle, that all of us here are going to draw strength from, those who've gone before and those who will come after us. In that spirit, then, I'm going to leave you with a poem from my collection that's out next year with Indigo Dreams. It's called Seed Prayer. And as we close our eyes for the closing of our own time, ready for eruption, be with us now, those gone before, saints of the slow detonation. Consecrate all this nutshell universe has annihilated itself to push out and into a whole earth that waits on us and needs us now, for nothing and nobody else can do this but us. Bear our hope, safe in the palms of before and after, stitching us into our green shrouds as we reach the dreamed of place we knew in ourselves would be our return, though it has never left us, even now. Thank you very much, everybody. It's been fantastic to be here, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Tim.
Clinical wonderfulness there. Yeah, excellent. Lovely stuff from Tim Kylie. We're just getting some more praise through. Lots of love for all the acorn stuff going on, particularly from Sam, but obviously also a callback there. Yeah, words, just such raw words. Acorn seed, collapsing, ashamed, mirror, caged. I'm not entirely sure what those words do in a sentence together, but clearly someone has been reduced to tears by these words. Yeah, lovely stuff here. Next, we've got Simon Madrell up. Simon actually just last Wednesday released his book, Throat Bone, which is basically detailing his life as a queer Manx man, a life that's now he has HIV, but he's thriving with it. So I guess that's, you know, an interesting perspective to have. He wants to draw attention to the fact that he was longlisted for the Rialto Prize, and has also been published in a number of other things. He's currently living in Brighton, though. He moved there quite recently during lockdown, which is a difficult time to move. So if you're in Brighton, you may particularly want to look up Simon Madrell, just so that you just make friends with him. You're allowed to actually be friends with people as well as to sort of worship their wonderful acts of art, because we are real people, honestly. Anyway, here we are. Please give a warm welcome to Simon Madrell.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, being born in the Isle of Man, it's very easy to be drawn to eco poetry, and I love it when a poem ends up being able to be read 2 or 3 different ways, and you might be able to see that just quickly, that it's a poem that can be read traditionally and also be read in columns. This is called Lesser Seen. Lesser seen Sumatran cuckoo calls from the edge, 2-footed, grounded, as the Manx shearwater black and white dodo threat reflects humanity's island. Inside lilac eyes, draining to purpled blood and ratus poison mixed peril. Looking beyond her crown, plucking and picking spineless creatures wrapped beneath waved leaves. A lesser seen cuckoo, island gifted nest. The universe, its home. Menaced tigers and drowning dragons also trapped. Virid coated cameras with hidden russet chested wounding stabs. In green existence, no one listens to calls from the edge. Lesser seen, Sumatran cuckoo grounded dodo threat, lilac eyes, poison mixed peril, plucking and picking beneath waved island gifted nest. The menaced tigers, virid coated cameras, russet chested existence. Calls from the edge as the Manx shearwater reflects humanity's island, draining to purpled blood. And looking beyond her spineless creatures leaves a lesser seen universe. And drowning dragons with hidden wounding stabs no one listens to. Two-footed, black and white inside, Rattus crown wrapped, cuckoo, its home also trapped in green calls from the edge. Thank you.
Yes, fundamental there. Choosing a poem that you all need to read on the page to get both sides of. So yes, that's a great reason to buy his book Throat Bone, which, as I say, has just come out. So very fresh off the press there. Next up, we've got Elizabeth McGowan. She's from Belfast, Northern Ireland, but she's been doing the Zoom tour of the world, as it is nowadays, that we can suddenly do. So yeah, she was recently in Hammer and Tongue Cambridge as a slam finalist. She's won the Ulster Prize, is that the Ulster Slam several times, I think. Is that? Yeah. And yeah, she's been published in several places, including Rig Welter and Ink, Sweat and Tears. Yeah, please give a clap of anticipation for Elizabeth McGowan.
Woo! Hi everyone. So as Robin said, I've been doing a lot of Zooms and workshops during lockdown, and I attended one particular one that was about poetry about the environment, about speaking to the earth, letting the earth speak to us. And it was called the Siren Poets Workshop. So this poem is about that workshop. Some of us are crying. We are learning to be sirens, baby sirens growing our wings, learning to be the winged women on rocks, not drowning sailors, but warning them of danger with a keep away, keep away, keep away message. When we are grown, when we are winged, we will call out with our songs, warning the people on the rock that the rock is at the end of its tether, groaning and bucking under the strain, smoking and creaking under the strain, heating and cooling under the strain, and the rock is considering the finality of solitude. We are learning to be sirens in this Zoom workshop, asking ourselves, can we save the earth? Can the earth save us? But first, the earth has to want to. It tells us with a whispering wind that it has been tempting us with warm, wet grass as we encase our feet in plastic to avoid, bargaining with us by giving us a sea that we then fill with foul things, brings rain for our thirst, which we make ourselves waterproof, stay indoors, take the car to work, sigh. It cannot speak our language. It is beginning to stop trying. We are learning to be sirens. We are writing poems about the green man, the green moss, the green. We baby sirens building block the words together. We take off our shoes and let vulnerability in. We place an ear to the earth. We lie flat, rained on, naked, and let the visions come, because they will come. They have been waiting for you. The man is crying because men are allowed to cry here. He is learning to be a siren, and his baby siren quest took him up a hill. Hill is green, hill is good, hill is ally. ally like we are learning to be allies in our baby siren innocence. The man is crying, he has not climbed a hill in years. The woman is crying, she is shielding. The woman is crying, she swam with sea lions. The woman is crying, she is contemplating sickness. Their feathers are beginning to sprout painfully from shoulder blades like a new tooth, like the wisest tooth of all. Crying is the new yawning, spreading box to box in this Zoom room. Feathers are the new wisdom, and we are learning to be sirens. Not the old kind, not the screaming, blaring, swearing kind, not the plastic police blue light kind, not the blue matters, black does not, riot gas, rubber bullet, sick corruption kind. We are growing wings. We warn of the danger of the rocks. We warn of the danger to the rock. We, sensitive to harm, we cultural empath, we worry, we wonder, we wander, we wail, we wings, baby sirens step off the cliff edge, stretching our spine bone, wing bones, and soar, singing.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Just coming up to our last performer, but let's just take a moment to appreciate what we've had so far, because we've had tremendous range of open micers. And there's been a lot of love coming in for Tim, for the structure of Simon Madrell. People have been loving that as well. Yes, and Elizabeth's hypnotic verse there. Yeah, just a sort of waterfall power. Yeah, so I think that we're going to go to Jamal now, is that right? I think that we're all on track. Everything's been done. So yeah, please do look up all of these people. Hopefully there's links popped up on the in-time chat that you have on Facebook. Sorry, on YouTube there. Not quite sure what's happening on Facebook. Maybe just go to YouTube if it's not there on Facebook. But anyway, yeah, we've got our final act of the night, which is Jamal Hassan. So Jamal basically has been taking a huge number of stages by storm in London, and yeah, I would say throughout the world, because you know at the moment people throughout the world can watch you from London. So yeah, it's great. He's been described as the poetic equivalent of discovering the drinks machine in your local McDonald's has quietly replaced its Pepsi button with spiced rum. I think that tells you most of what you need to know. So you can stand by, make sure you've got some water, because you're going to be dehydrated, probably with laughter, also possibly with tears, depending which poems he's bringing. You might also need something to put in your mouth to prevent yourself from biting your hand off at the awkwardness of some of his poems. Yeah, so I'm waiting with a bit of trepidation to see what we've got coming up here, but I'm very excited to say that we're going to have Jamal next. He hosts a couple of events that you should probably look up. I'm sure you'll love his stuff, so you'll want to start looking up now. Extra Second London and Spoken Word London. So he hosts both of them at least some of the time. So yeah, look that up, and yeah, please give a really warm welcome for our final act of the evening, Jamal Hassan.
Hi, you can all hear me all right, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start with a piece just to introduce myself. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a fetish for walking into tanning salons and asking the tangerines at the front desk for the usual. Why do I do that, you ask? Well, you see, I love watching Clementine cheeks burn blood orange as they scramble for the manager to ask if she might know what the hell this Negro is on about. I have a kink for breaking the rules of personal space when patronized about how well-spoken I am. I like to get in close and smell the cheap fake marketplace perfume worn by all the classists who tell me that London isn't my home just because their grandmothers used to own mine. The fragrance, Versace. But it's Versace that's spelled with an F instead of a V. And I explain how my pronunciation, poise, and use of punctuation came about this way. So we begin in 1482 with slaves brought to Portugal from Ghana. And if you leave that in a pot to stew for 4 centuries, add a dash of Brits too lazy to get their own damn gold, sprinkle on top an education system funded by Christian missionaries, built by UNICEF charities, and voila. You get a culture with European supremacy so deeply ingrained that people will do anything to feel like an honorary white. Some might move their families to the countries that stole from them, which is kind of like returning to the dilapidated shack of your deadbeat ex, only all his other baby mothers are living there too. And for some reason, he resents you for your difficulty finding work, even though he is the one who draws dicks on your CV in lime green Sharpie historically, daily, all the while telling you to go back home to where you came from, even though he is the one who barged into your house, sold your floorboards, your doors, and your windows to fund a dick measuring contest with the rest of his European colonizing neighbors. And if you dare to remind him of his sin, then he just calls you a plunger or a broken toilet for bringing up old shit. Sometimes I ask myself, what's keeping me from, at the very least, sleeping with all the white men in the world exclusively so that I can ruin their orgasms and whisper, reparations? Or stockpiling sheep stomach acid from slaughterhouses to crumble the marble walls of Parliament, or stealing sulfur from secondary school science labs as I hoard fertilizer and charcoal to make gunpowder. But then my mom asks me if I'm hungry. She's unaware of her son's latent taste for anarchy. And I'm reminded of the 2 jobs she worked, of her emaciated rib cage, how bad hurt just so I could eat another day in that 1-bedroom flat in Gypsy Hill, burgled so often they ran out of things to steal. And I become afraid that my lust to settle the score will only destroy everything that she has fought for. Thank you.
Great.
Yes. Yeah. So good.
Okay, so this next one is about love and climate change and animals. And it's called Black Jaguar, Black Panther. On a cloudless day, lost to time, a black jaguar happens upon a panther and his kill. Together they share bits of flesh in silence. Jaguars all panthers' ebony eyes. They're 2 cats, raised in the Pan-African bush, sons of a jungle, poached, pillaged, and burned into an iron cross. 2 boys, neither young nor old, born to different tribes, one's oral history seeing staring as a request to start a fight, the other a simple sign of respect. A monsoon passes, and jaguar and panther share meat often paid for with panther's sweat amongst the dunes of desert and Serengeti. Each growing stronger with every bitten morsel given by a land on its last legs. Jaguar aspires to draw blood like panther, or to wear his skin like a suit, or to claw his throat out. Jaguar doesn't know. Too many moons spent fighting with lions over carrion scraps, tricked by spider and scorpion alike, that had squished Jaguar's eyes into a suspicious squint whenever confronted with kindness. But there was one more thought, one that brought him back to being a cub, Mama Jaguar roaring stories poorly passed down about the sins and dangers that come from playing with panthers. Jaguar licks his fangs at thoughts and flashes of the 2 of them, rolling in grass now long dead, nipping ears, purring, growling, neither caring about wayward scratches, abrasive tongues lovingly lapping up droplets of one another's blood before becoming one in body, one in mind. Nowadays, Jaguar wakes up at sunrise. He walks and stalks the herds from wildebeest to antelope, looking for the biggest brute, all muscle, a stampede standing on 4 hooves. Some say Jaguar is still searching for this titan beast of burden, dreaming of Panther's face, eyes wide and salivating at the sight dropped before his obsidian paws. The gift of a kill even he couldn't manage alone. Thank you. All right. I wrote this one over a year ago, but I felt like it had a lot more validity and importance during the height of quarantine when everyone was just really missing their homies. Because I, for one, am very prone to missing the homies quite a lot. And it's called, Have You Ever Been So Lonely? Have you ever been so lonely that you followed advice given by Cosmopolitan magazine? Have you ever been so lonely that you intentionally grew acne just so you could have an excuse for why no one would want to date you? Have you ever stroked your shoulder when someone bumped into you because any human contact will do? Have you ever worn a coat that was a size too small because the constriction of cotton could trick you into thinking you're getting a cuddle? Have you ever been so lonely that the only way you made friends was by telling your crushes how you felt and they went, oh, let's just be friends? Have you ever been so lonely that only your reflection was willing to hug you back? Have you ever been so lonely that you called your co-workers family even though you're self-employed and you work independently? Have you ever felt so lonely that you committed crimes in broad daylight just so you could be wanted? Have you ever been so lonely that you whispered, I love you, while watching porn? Have you ever been so lonely that you stuck your genitals in a pot of coffee just to feel some warmth? Have you ever been sat on a bus that terminated 30 stops too early because the driver didn't want to risk anyone sitting next to your lonely ass? And have you ever smoked a joint with too much because a wet roach end is the closest you'll ever get to a kiss?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Time to make a coffee.
Okay, I've got 2 short ones left, and I think that'll be it. In fact, 3 really short ones. So the first one is a haiku, and I feel like it's really important to let everyone just do a haiku every now and then because they're fun. So here we go. Revolution comes. Streets run red with human blood. Is it mine or yours?
Ooh.
And, moving on very swiftly to, yes. So this one is my favorite nature poem that I've written, and it's called Pray for the Amazon. Pray for the Amazon, he says, picking bits of gristle between his teeth, beef burger grease dripping from the corner of his lip down to his white collar. My spine splits under the weight of my ribcage caving in before I muster the strength to tell him anything. There are no fruits left, no Moorish grains, not even bitter onions to bite on. That it's too hot. It's always too hot. We order milkshakes and watch the condensation on his cup sizzle in the new August sun. I tell him I'm not thirsty. He pushes mine towards me. I see a message in the plastic cup. Live each day like it was your last. Okay, and this is the last one. And I remember most of it. And if I forget it, I will probably just start improvising. So you're welcome. And it's called Happiness. Happiness is a mango. It's a ripe yellow sun, bleeding gold, blown by gentle breezes through the air and into your lungs. Take a moment to taste it on your tongue. Hold, breathe in deep, and bite down on it hard. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh, thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Wow. Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Boom.
Lovely stuff. Oh, thank you. Yeah, loads of praise coming in here. A lot of block caps. Words like incredible, boom. Yeah, so great. And yeah, wow, bam. Many words that you would normally expect to see in comics, but I guess I can read aloud for you if you want. But anyway, just imagine all of those sound effects of people being punched, but the people in question is the patriarchy. Excellent.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, that's all the poems you're getting for the evening, but I think we've had a fantastic time here. So yeah, if you enjoyed it. One thing we should probably do, we'll be paying our features, of course. If you'd like to give us some money towards that, there is a PayPal link that we should hopefully be dropping somewhere or other in the YouTube chat there. I think that's all we need to say. If you've enjoyed this, let us know. As I say, this is the first time we've ever done this. Let us know what worked. Let us know what could be different. If you'd like to have exactly the same again, but with someone else hosting it, that's fine. I think we could see at least 14 different hosts here who really could have done an excellent job. Yeah, excellent. I've enjoyed myself. I hope you've all enjoyed yourself, and I hope you're going to start looking up all the details of these wonderful poets we've had here. So can we please just have one last round of applause for all of our open micers?
Yeah.
For both our features. For all the people who've been putting the effort into organising this event. Yes. Night, everyone.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
I think we're still online, so I'm going to keep talking.